I do a lot of work with Strategic Safety Dynamics, which is out of Long Island, and that's basically the master distributor that does all of this sales and whatnot. So we do a lot of different products. We do obviously Ricochet, which we'll talk about tonight, Pacific helmets, Majestic hoods, Vanguard gloves, which is Andrew Shapiro, then Black Diamond boots, which is Frank, RPI Gem Tour, flashlights, the Draeger line, the Avon line, which for next week we're doing the thermal imaging camera. We are a Firehooks Unlimited dealer, Desert Diamond blades, Broco, which makes like torches and stuff like that. Armor Upfitters, Paratech if you're on Long Island, American Fire Training Systems, Western Shelter, and ChemGuard. So we have a lot of different products that we do. And so without further ado, Andrew, why don't you give us a quick introduction, and then like 15 to 20 minutes, as we spoke about, generally about gloves, and then obviously at the end I want you to get into the Vanguard gloves and what makes them different. So without further ado, thanks for joining us, Andrew.
Thank you for having me. Just a little background. My company is Vanguard Safety Wear. We're kind of the new kid on the block. We've been in business since 2017. Prior to that, I was with ProTech 8 gloves from 2005 to 2015, and I led the original design and development there. It was a glove that was really innovative into the market, and made quite a splash at the time. So I left there in 2015. Spent 2 years developing the Vanguard line, and we introduced in 2017. And you raised a good point before, Dan, is like, how much do our customers know about our product? I mean, they need to know so much in the fire service about fighting fires and all that goes with that. I can't even imagine trying to comprehend all that. So when it comes to PPE, I imagine there's a huge range of knowledge by firefighters on a particular gear and what they know about it. So that's always of interest to us, to try to break it down and make it simple. What we have to do with our gloves, or any structural fighting gloves, you have to get them in the laboratory. They're rigorously tested in the lab to meet all the requirements of cut resistance, flame resistance, grip and dexterity. I mean, it's such a long list, even for something which seems as simple as gloves. It's just a huge list of requirements within the laboratory, and you got to meet them all. There's no 3 out of 4. You got to meet every standard, every step of the way. And it's a rigorous process. Takes several months at least, depending on how successful you are at the beginning, if you have to make any modifications. So it could take 6 months or more, also depending how busy the lab is at the time you're in there. And they're also changing the standards every couple of years, so it's a constant effort to meet those requirements. You do get tested during the year. The certification agents will pull random products from your inventory and submit them to the lab to ensure you're maintaining your compliance to all the standards. So it's an ongoing process as far as the certification and testing involved. So within that realm, the challenge for gloves then becomes, well, how do you meet all those requirements, which in a sense isn't really that hard, but how do you meet those requirements and maintain the performance of the gloves? That's really the challenge. So I always get a kick out of glove manufacturers who brag about 60 plus TPP. That's really simple. I can make a glove with 80 TPP. I can make it with 100 TPP. That's not the hard part. The hard part is the other features, the grip, the dexterity, the tactility, flexibility. That's the true challenge with designing gloves. Going back to the 60 TPP point, another issue there. Gloves are tested for conductive heat resistance. In order to meet the requirements of the conductive heat resistance, your glove is going to be up to the 50, 60, or over TPP. So the TPP, in a funny sense, is almost irrelevant. You're really focused on meeting that conductive heat test. So when glove makers brag about 60 plus TPP, the requirement is 35. The only reason they're at 60 plus is because they need that to make the conductive heat test passable. So I always get a kick out of glove makers bragging about that, because it's really irrelevant. If I could make a glove with 35 TPP, I'd be happy to make it, but it's the laws of physics won't allow it. So the point becomes, well, how do you meet these requirements? And in particular, the conductive heat test, how do you meet that and still maintain some kind of flexibility, dexterity, tactility? And that's what becomes the real challenge. What we've done and what we do differently than most other makers is a layering system where we use more layers than most manufacturers. The reason being, then you're not relying on any one single thick, bulky layer for protection. You make a sandwich of multiple layers, and here's a little image of the inside of our glove. You can see a little bit what's going on. We actually have 5 separate layers of Kevlar. There's 3 on the back side, there's 2 on the palm side. And then we use a leather palm. And then the leather on the back side, as you can see, we scale it off right at the knuckle area over here. And the reason we do that is because the conductive heat test only goes up to this section. From this section forward on the fingers, it's TPP. So that gives you the option or the opportunity to scale back the layering over here, which will give you greater dexterity and flexibility. Now, most gloves, there's only one other brand that does that work, because it's a lot more labor intensive and it's a more difficult construction. But that's one of the keys for our gloves, is to give you better flexibility and dexterity, is because we vary that layering on the backside. And again, the fact that that conductive heat test cuts off right here at the finger crotches, you have that opportunity where you just are meeting the TPP requirement, and you can make a more functional glove in that regard. So the bottom line on our glove is, yeah, it's 60 TPP plus, 60 plus TPP everywhere, except again at those back of the finger area where you see the green Kevlar, where the TPP is more into around the mid 50s. So even that little bit of difference is going to give you a lot more functionality and greater ability to do your tasks, and also to do your tasks with your gloves on, because the point is, most injuries on the fire ground to the hand occurs when the gloves come off. So if you can perform more of your tasks with your gloves on, you're going to be safer, obviously. Another key ingredient of our design, if you look at the fingertips here, that leather on the fingertips, it's a separately cut and sewn section. So it's almost like a little cap on top of your fingertips. And what that does is provide a tailored, sculpted effect to give you clean and neat fingertips instead of sloppy fingertips, because the tactility for a glove is a really challenging performance feature. There's just too many layers packed into too small an area that it becomes very difficult to achieve any true tactility. So this is a design we've created. We are the only structural glove that does this kind of procedure for the fingertips, and it's essentially going to guarantee to improve your tactility from what you're wearing now. It's almost a given. Again, more labor intensive, but it's a major design feature, and it sets us apart from pretty much everybody else. We make 2 different models of structural gloves. This is our MK1, which you're looking at. It's a goat skin palm. It's a cow skin backside, and all the inner layers are 5 different layers of Kevlar. We only use Kevlar because it's the best and most cost-effective material for cut protection and puncture resistant. And again, we layer up 5 different times with the Kevlar, and it's more layering than anybody does, and that gives you the flexibility that comes with this glove. Our other model is the MK1 Ultra. It's the exact glove as the MK1, except the palm side and the back of the thumb is kangaroo skin. The thing about kangaroo skin, it's just a phenomenal leather. There's nothing as strong and supple and flexible at that weight class. It's really in a class by itself as far as leather performance. All the soccer players in the world wear leather shoes made of kangaroo skin because of its strength and durability and flexibility. It's just a superb combination. There's nothing like it. So it gives you a little more performance than the MK1. The issue with the kangaroo skins is they're quite expensive. There's a lot more goats in the world than kangaroos, so the skins are about 6 or 7 times as expensive. So it's a costlier product, and at the end of the day, departments have to weigh, can their budget handle a more expensive product. As far as individual purchases, they seem to go for the kangaroo skin, obviously, whenever possible. So we sell a lot of those in the individual pairs. That pretty much sums it up for us. In structural gloves, we also make a
Andy,
go ahead.
I'm going to have you do the extrication one, but before you go on, I just wanted to ask 2 questions that sometimes come up with the Vanguards. Number 1 would be, the only complaint I've ever heard about them is taking them on and off when your hands are wet. So do you want to just kind of address why you might find that versus other gloves and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big challenge for all gloves, because when hands and materials get wet, it becomes more difficult. It's like putting on a t-shirt that's soaking wet. It's not fun to do. The way around that, or to improve that, is to use a thicker, stiffer inner liner. So, there's your trade-off. I could put in a stiffer inner liner and would give you a better or easier wet on and off. But the trade-off is big. You'll lose your flexibility, you'll lose some dexterity. So again, it's trying to find that recipe that in the long run gives you the most performance in one package. What I will say is our glove generally, if you can see, it's a lot of sewing on the back side and on the palm side. There's a lot of labor-intensive sewing here. It's a very tailored glove, and it's a very tailored fit, and it does not fit like other gloves. So fit is very important, and what you're talking about with wet on and off, it's really important to get a proper fit with this glove. We do offer cadet sizing, so it gives you more options, and typically the users will trade up a size from what they're normally wearing. So if you're on a borderline size, you want to trade up. That'll give you better wet on and off. Look, some firefighters like their gloves snug no matter what. I just wouldn't recommend it with this glove. If you're on the borderline, you trade up. And if you do trade up, with our sculpted fingertip design that I talked about before, you're not going to wind up with sloppy fingers, even if you're trading up a size. So that's kind of the cure, is the cadet sizing, the trading up a size, size generously, and you'll have a little better luck with the wet on and off.
Perfect. Cool. Thank you. So you can go on to the extrication for sure.
Yeah. Extrication gloves. This is our Squad 1 extrication glove. And just by looking at it, I'm sure you can see it doesn't look anything like what is typically used in the fire service. What we did here was we designed an extrication glove specifically for the fire service. Most of the gloves out there, frankly, were originally impact gloves used in the oil field industry and things like that, and they kind of adopted them into the fire service. Problem is, they're not really designed for the tasks that you're doing in auto extrication, things like that. So what we've done with the Squad 1 glove is the back shell is 100% Kevlar. You notice it's not like the bright fancy colors you see on the typical extrication gloves, because those are made out of nylon, and nylon comes in all kinds of colors. But to me, nylon doesn't belong on the fire ground. It's not flame resistant. It's not extremely cut resistant. So we use only a Kevlar shell on the back. The inner liner on the palm is also 100% Kevlar. So you have full 100% Kevlar shell, not shell, linings on back and palm. On the palm shell, we use kangaroo skin again, for the same reason we use it in the structural glove. It's just a fantastic leather. It gives you an amazing grip. It's very durable. This glove has a cut level 3 rating, and extremely tailored, extremely functional, and very sleek and lightweight. We don't bulk up the backside with the plastic rubber that you see on many of the extrication gloves, because we don't feel it's really necessary for those tasks. We have a padded knuckle protection, Kevlar reinforcements on the backside fingers over here. And it's just been a great response to this glove in the 2 years that it's been in the industry.
While it's certainly not in any way, shape, or form a rope rescue glove, one of the things I like about it is if you get you know, in your extrication and you end up having to do like a mini low angle thing, it's not a Kevlar palm, it's a leather palm. So you're not going to dig up that rope at all, which I think is because the original version was Kevlar palm. So why don't you talk about why you switched?
Yeah, well, interesting. Yeah, the original version had like a Kevlar palm, and we actually had it at FDNY Special Ops Command, and they were evaluating it, and they loved the glove, but they felt it was a little slippery with some metal tools they were handling. So that's when I decided to switch to the kangaroo skin, and it was a blessing in disguise that they weren't completely happy at the beginning, because the glove that came out with the Kevlar with the kangaroo skin has just been phenomenal. So we're testing it. We're back with FDNY testing it now. We'll see how they respond to that. But the response generally to the squad one has been sensational. It's really so different than everything that's out there, and so tailored for the fire service task that the response has just been really excellent.
It's only about what, $53, something like that.
Yeah, 52 is the MSRP. We also use Kevlar sewing thread, so it's a very lightweight but very durable at the same time.
Excellent. So do you have anything else that you wanted to touch base on, or is that pretty much?
That's pretty much it. We do also make a very long cuff, that Houston long cuff glove, but that's confined to a very minimal market. But we do have people who ask for it at times. I'd like to know if people in the audience have any particular questions about gloves in general, about testing gloves, manufacturing gloves, or our gloves specifically.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, you can either unmute yourself and ask, or like I've said, you can into the chat box, you can just type the question and I'll ask it as well. So if anyone, what are you just go over the retail prices for the fire gloves? I know we mentioned the extrication.
Yes, the MK1 structural gloves are $86.95, so it's kind of like pretty much in the middle of the pricing nowadays. The Ultra with kangaroo skin is $125, which compared to a lot of the few kangaroo skin gloves out there, it's very competitively priced. And the Squad 1 glove is $52.
Excellent. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, if no one has any, go ahead.
Yeah, one thing we pride ourselves on is the durability for all our products. You know, typically you got to go to those bulky gloves to get some real durability, but we've got durability built in with the high functionality as well, meaning the dexterity, the tactility, and the flexibility. So that's always been a trade-off from what I know of the other gloves in the market. There are a couple of what I call flexible gloves out there, but they just don't have durability anything close to what we have. So kind of, in our humble opinion, is presenting the whole package, the durability and the functionality. Yeah. But mainly you know, what I say doesn't matter too much. We like to get them out in the field. We're very aggressive to support department wear tests. We do either buy one, get one free, or depending on the size of the department, we'll give them eval gloves just to use and test, because we usually have really good results at the end. So we're very aggressive to support any department wear tests and things like that.
Yeah, the few departments we've done through strategic, we've done phenomenal with. And I find Connecticut's more, I could be wrong, but it seems like it's more individual purchases than bulk department purchases. Whereas I know on Long Island, it seems like there's a lot of large department purchases. But
yeah, I think you're right about that. You know, look, in a lot of cases, it's political, especially in the bigger departments, but it can be so in the smaller departments as well. So typically we find it takes certain members in the department who have to motivate the leadership to evaluate our gloves. You know, I see departments using gloves that were designed, you know, 10, 12, 15 years ago. And I'm like, it amazes me that they're still using it. I don't think anyone's using turnouts that were designed, you know, 15, 20 years ago. But
except maybe FDNY.
Yeah. Well, they're in their own world. But that's what we see is some of the glove designs, they're so obsolete. Yeah. Look, I guess people get used to them, or they have a favorite supplier or whatever. But it's important to understand that, you know, there's product out there that's higher performing, and our goal is to get it into as many departments for evaluation as possible, because it's typically an eye opener when they get to experience what we've done with our design.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining, Andrew. You're welcome to obviously stay around and listen, but I
Thanks.
appreciate your glove presentation, and
Thanks for having me. And send any questions anytime from anybody.
absolutely. And yes, I'll send out all the, someone just asked if there's contact information for the presenters, and I'll get that out to everybody, so you don't have to worry about it. I'll send a mass email later with your contact information. So,
Great. Thanks for having me.
all right, Frank, are you out there ready to go? Excellent. All right.
Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you and see you. So, why don't you introduce yourself, and then talk, like Andy did, talk about kind of what goes into boots in general, and then certainly talk about the Black Diamond structural boots and station boots, which I love the station boots so much. I have 2 pairs, one for work, one for home. And I know a buddy of mine is an auto mechanic. He bought a pair and he loves them. So I think they're definitely a home run. So take it away.
Good, good. Hey, first of all, thanks, Daniel, for the invitation to be on here. This is excellent. Just listening to Andrew's first presentation. It's good to get caught up on everything in the market. But it's great to be here from downtown beautiful Tampa Bay, home of the Super Bowl champions, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 72 degrees right now. I thought I'd throw that in.
Ooh.
Guys are all up there.
Rub it in, why don't you?
Yeah, well, I figured I would. So, couple of things. I mean, typically on the market, you have 2 choices. You've got the World War II design of the rubber boot, right? Typical steel plate, prevents any intrusions underneath. Steel toe, obviously for safety toe, and a steel shank to hold the form of the foot. Basic firefighting boot, again, it's been around for a long time. With the rubber boot, this is Kevlar line, not felt line. So not only does it lend a layer of protection, but it's also lends to the comfort of the boot. And then down in the bottom, you see that ortholite footbed. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit more, but this boot is NFPA approved for NFPA 1971 2018 edition, and also the Liquid Splash, the 1992 edition. Again, basic rubber bunker boots. I've worn these. I'm sure some of you at one time in your career have worn a Black Diamond rubber boot. It's the most comfortable rubber boot on the market. Our leather boot. Now, obviously, we're getting into some newer technology with the, let me just turn that light down a little bit, with the leather boot. So what we like to talk about, first thing is the NFPA 10-year guideline, right? They say no matter if you've worn it or not, after 10 years, you got to throw your stuff in the garbage. That doesn't mean that your boots or your gloves are going to last you 10 years. And some firefighters really think that because the NFPA says 10 years, the product's going to last 10 years. So keep in mind, products are made differently, especially footwear, gloves, turnout gear, helmets. It's made to protect, but they do have a wearable life on all of them. So NFPA 10 years doesn't mean manufacturing 10 years. I just thought I'd throw that out there. So one thing we like to do is talk about a few things on the fire ground. I mean, you can have the best gear, the best SCBA, you can have the best helmet, all that on, but if your feet are killing you, it's not going to be a good day. So from the makers of Carhartt, we own the licensing and we make all the Carhartt shoes and boots in North America. We have a fire division that I help oversee. And this is the X2. This is our leather boot. And first thing is, I want to talk about energy on the fire ground. So obviously, the more you walk around, you get tired. If it's a flat-footed boot, even walking is uncomfortable. And what's nice about our boot, if I can turn this down a little, I just want to show you that it's got a little bit of energy in the boot. Okay, it's not flat-footed. Again, a big feature of the X2. Um, you know, talk about this logo, which protects the outside of your ankle bone, on the outside of your ankle. Not only that, but this is our reflective logo. So if that firefighter is down and you're in there searching with flashlights, this helps locate the firefighter. So it's a nice little rapid intervention team feature for locating a downed firefighter. As far as layers in our boot, the outside is a combination of Crosstech and Fusion. And Fusion is a combination of Nomex, Kevlar, and Teflon. That allows the boot to breathe and be 100% waterproof at the same time. So we've got Fusion on the outside. Inside, along with the Fusion liner, is the Crosstech. And then we have inside the boot, if you can see that blue liner, that's your wicking material. That's what takes away the heat and the moisture. You know, if your feet are hot, again, it's not a good day. So what's nice about the wicking material, that's an Omaha lining. We only use quality products in all of our boots and shoes that we make for Carhartt, all right? And if you can't notice it, the liner at the bottom is sewn into the base of the boot. So you'll never have liner pull out when you take your foot out. If you've never worn a Black Diamond X2 and you're interested, I want to pass you on to our dealer down there, Strategic Safety Dynamics. Let them know you want to trial it for your fire department. Obviously, it's not a free pair of boots for you, or hopefully it's not. But if your department is seriously looking at changing your footwear, we have a trial boot program out there that's no charge to the dealer, no charge to you. We just need to know that you're serious about making the purchase. So if you've never tested an X2, let your Strategic Safety Dynamics sales rep set you up with a trial, and there may be one close. That's about it. Anything else?
Frank, go through the, so yeah, I cover strategic safety, obviously, on the western part of the state. And then we have Clint Haverkamp, who's on the eastern side of the state. So you guys can just let me know. But Frank, go through, you forgot all about the width on the width adjustments on the X2. So go through that quickly, because everyone always says, you know, I need a 10 wide or an 11 narrow or whatever. So just go through quickly how we do widths on those.
You got it. So in all of our boots, as we mentioned, is this Ortholite footbed. All right. This absorbs moisture and odor, maintains 95% of the density for the life of the boot, and it cradles the foot in 3 different areas like an orthotic. One of the things that makes the boot the most comfortable boot on the market. All right. So with the X2, underneath your footbed, you've got these 2 flaps. Okay. So when you get the boot is a medium width. Okay. If you need a wide, you reach in the boot, you take out the footbed, take 1 layer out, footbed goes back in. Now you have a wide width. Okay. If you need an extra wide, both layers come out, footbed goes back in. Now you have an extra wide. Think about the logistical headache that's eliminated with that. And not only that, but the end user can adjust it for maximum comfort, right? If you're wearing a thicker sock in the winter, take 1 layer out, put it back in the spring. Whether we want to admit it or not, our 2 feet are not the same size, right? Either it's, you know, from hereditary or from injury, but, you know, we've got firefighters wearing 1 layer in one, 2 layers in the other. Bottom line is the end user can adjust it for maximum comfort. And for the logistics person, they don't have to worry about getting the right width of the boot. All they need is the size to order the boot. So that's what makes it obviously one of a kind. The other thing I want to throw out there now that Daniel's got me going is there's this American Podiatric Medical Association, foot doctors. They reach out to the footwear world and they actually rate footwear for promoting good foot health. And back when the X2 came out, a letter to our CEO and the certificate, the X2 leather fire boot is the only boot on the market that's got that acceptance. The letter says it promotes good foot health and it's made of quality construction. So, you know, rather than me or Daniel trying to sell you on it's a comfortable boot that's going to be good for you long term, it's the foot doctor standing behind it.
Yeah, and I'll say that I was skeptical the first time when you were saying, you know, oh, it makes it wider or whatever. But I've had a few customers that say they can't find a boot wide enough, and when I sent that to them to try, and they were like, no way, if I'm not ordering wide, it's not going to work. And sure enough, they took both inserts out, and their faces dropped one time. They're like, I've never found boots that are wide enough. So it's not a gimmick. It actually does work. I can attest to that. So now,
Yeah.
before we move on to the station boots, I just want to kind of compare and contrast. You know, I've worn Globe a lot, and I definitely find that these boots have a stiffer upper to them, whereas the Globes feel a little bit more almost like sneakers. Do you find that, or is there a design reason behind it being stiffer, or longevity, or what do you find?
Yeah, you know, with that stiffer throat on the boot, we like the fact that it's, you know, it's a custom fit boot if you think about it, with a custom sizing system. So, you know, with the tighter throat, it's hanging onto your foot longer with less a chance to come off. So again, we kind of like it to kind of shape right to your foot as much as possible. And, you know, with that stiffer throat in the upper there, you know, it holds onto your foot a little bit better.
Cool. All right, so why don't you move on to the station boots, and if anyone has any questions out there, feel free to just shoot a message to me.
So about 3 years ago, we came out with a tactical boots. We heard from our dealers. We heard from you as customers that you wanted a tactical boot, uniform boot that was affordable, doesn't need all the NFPA certifications, but it's got to be high quality. So we actually came out with 4 models. A 5th one is coming out later this year. The first model is the 6001. This is a 6-inch waterproof soft toe. Okay. These boots all have great features like a driver's heel. Okay. It's flat on the heel to secure your foot when you're driving. Okay. Polishable toe. If you have to shine them up for your Class A uniforms, you can do that. Inside are 2 heel comfort pods in the back. That allows your ankle to kind of lock in like the ankle lock in the X2. So there's no ankle slop or ankle injuries. And then this also has that custom fit system in it where you can change it from a medium to a wide width. It won't go extra wide, but it'll go from medium to wide. If you take a look at this boot price-wise, list price on this boot is $104.99. It's made in the same factory that we make all of the Carhartt shoes and boots for North America. Okay. The next boot is the 6002, which is very similar to the 6001, except we added a high quality YKK side zipper. Okay. And again, the boot is totally waterproof, even if you unzip it. Okay. Same features, driver's heel, custom fit system inside, but we added the zipper and we added a comp toe, right? There's some fire departments out there that require a comp toe. You know, I think we as manufacturers, for the guys that aren't too familiar with comp toe, the safety toe, I think we have a responsibility to kind of push it, because common sense tells you if you're out and you're, you know, changing an oxygen tank in the engine and you end up dropping it on your toe, rather than having a workman's comp case and being out of work, you just close the compartment and go back to work. So we really need to be pushing safety toes in the fire station, I think, as manufacturers. So this is the 6002. Again, comp toe, side zipper, 6-inch waterproof. Okay. For those of you that have injured both ankles like me on fire calls and want a little bit more ankle support, we have an 8-inch. All right. This is the 8001. Again, identical features. It's got the driver's heel. It's got the heel comfort pods inside. It's got the polishable toe, custom fit system inside. And this has got a 8-inch YKK high quality zipper. Okay. This is the 8001. This is 104.99. All right. Same price as the 6002 with a soft toe. The next boot is the 8002, identical to the 8001, except we added the comp toe to it. Later on this year, we're releasing a 5th model. It's going to be more of a slip-on. So as soon as we do that, I'm sure you'll be hearing something from our friends at Strategic Safety Dynamics. And there's also another value-added feature coming to the X2 leather fire boot later on this year, and that's all I can tell you. And that's all I got.
Very good. Thanks, Frank. And the only thing that I wish the station boots had is a pull tab in the back. That's my only suggestion for the future. Other than that,
Yep.
most comfortable station boot I've ever worn. So without a doubt.
To pull it up, absolutely. I'll tell you, I've worn a pair. I don't know where my pair is, but I've had the first pair that came out. They're about 3 years old and they still look like brand new.
Yeah.
And I'm the same guy. You know, I'm not going to bend over and pull the thing up. I just shove my foot into the back of the heel counter, and it has yet to collapse in 3 years. So high quality and durable.
Awesome. Well, Frank, thank you for joining us. If no one else has any questions, we will move right along. Again, Frank, you're welcome to listen the rest of the time, but thank you very much for joining us this evening. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Daniel.
All right. So last but not least, Jason Jacoby, are you out there? All right. There we go.
Unmute.
All right, excellent. So Jason also works with, Jason's out of Jersey. He also works with Strategic Safety in New Jersey as the sales rep there. And he is also the regional sales representative for the Ricochet line of products. So we will certainly, obviously, as we did get into Ricochet in general, but, you know, I just wanted to start off with turnout gear in general. And so some of the big bullet points that a lot of people aren't familiar with are just what the layers of gear are, the TPP and THL. So I'll get into that a little bit. And then with the individual layers, what each layer actually accomplishes. And then, you know, we'll get into we'll delve into there of some of the other items. We're certainly going to get into the PFOA, which I know has been in the news a little bit. If you're on social media, it's been out for a little while, but we'll get into that a little bit later. So just start with what we have now for gear, the layers, how they work, how they're tested, things like that.
Guys, thanks for joining us. Dan, thanks for putting this presentation on. Dan and I have been friends for a long time. We go to the same barber. Same style haircuts. That's from all the helmet wearing. But we've been good. I appreciate it, Dan. This definitely works out nice. So I'm Jason Jacoby. I'm from Bergen County, New Jersey. I'm a career fireman for the last 13 years, and I've been a volunteer for about 17. Yes, I look young, but I got involved in gear when I very first started in the fire service. One of my good colleagues at the time got his ass burnt on a radiator. Turned out to be the gear that was purchased for us was a little on the cheaper end because the chief wanted to buy a chief vehicle at the time. So he got a nice chief vehicle, and one of my good buddies burned his ass. Sat on a donut for about 4 months. So I started doing a lot of research, and I didn't like how a chief can pretty much dictate what products or what gear you wear, and you have no idea what you're wearing. So that's where we came along with this. Say about 10 years down the road, I started with Ricochet as one of their salesmen, and I became a sales rep for it. So, you know, that's what the nice part about this is. You should learn about your gear because you're wearing it. It's what keeps you safe. It's what makes you go home every day. It also makes you not sit on a donut for 4 months. which was probably pretty terrible for him. Funny for us for a little while, but pretty bad for him. So like I said, we'll get started as far as start talking about gear itself, the products. So as everyone knows, this is considered the outer shell. The very first part of your gear is the outer shell. That's basically what holds the flame back, the heat, keeps you pretty safe. It gets wet. From there, you go inside the gear. Oops, sorry. And you got the moisture barrier. Just the moisture barrier holds all the water back from your skin, keeps everything from steam burning you, all those principles pretty much. Then from there, you have the thermal layer. Thermal layer is the layer that's rubbing up against your skin, up against your jacket, up against your shirt, and that's that material. It's also, some people call it the face cloth, but it is the thermal liner. Those three things are what bring up your gear, the make of your gear. So again, you got the outer shell, then you got the moisture barrier, and then you got the thermal liner. Thermal liner is actually, it's what keeps you cool, keeps you from not getting burnt, but they all work together. So all three of them have to get put together, get tested together, and that's how you get your ratings. So the ratings on gear is TPP and THL, the thermal protection and the thermal heat loss. Just like anything else, gear breathes in and breathes out. So you want your gear to breathe in and breathe out to release the heat. So with those combinations, you want the highest level possible, or just the best combination of materials. So the NFPA minimum is 35 for TPP. THL is, I believe, the 200 range. So you want above 35, higher the better. Also with gear, as it washes, if you guys do pay attention to gear and TPPs, THLs, as you wash it, the numbers get higher. So when the gear is made or woven together, it's not as tight. As you wash it and dry it, it starts to shrink, or the material starts to come together, which holds it, which makes a better protection point.
Jay, what is the TPP 35? What does that mean? What does that indicate?
35 is the minimum number for the thermal protection. So
it's what is it, the seconds of, or it's twice the seconds that'll protect you in a flashover from second-degree burns, I believe, right?
Yeah, it goes for the protection point, how long it takes for you to basically get burned on it. But also it combines with the THL as well. So it's, it's tested as a whole. Tech Gen for one, I think their THL or TPP is 35.8. They're at bare minimum NFPA standards. So then we have products that are 42 TPP. And we've had people in flashovers in both, and it does hold up because it's the way it's all put together. And it's very subjective, to be honest with you, the testing.
And again, what's the downside of going to a really high TPP? If you're the chief and you say, I want my guys protected as much as possible, and I just want the thickest TPP out there, or the highest TPP out there, what's the downside as you go to higher TPPs?
There really isn't any downsides. Because again, it's how it's all manufactured and put together. The higher the TPP, the higher protection you're going to get in a flashover.
Well, I guess what I mean is, how does that relate to the THL? So if you get a higher TPP, are you generally going to get a lower THL because
Nope.
Okay.
No, it does not. It's how it basically comes by the other two layers is the thermal heat loss. These two layers is what's going to tell you your thermal heat loss with the outer shell. So it's hard to say. The Firetex Tech Gen, I think the THL on that is 260, 270. But I've seen ones that are 36 TPP and 290, 296 THL. So there's no real correlation that I know of, I've seen or been told, to be honest with you.
Now with the washing, increasing the TPP, is there an amount of washings that stops increasing the TPP? Or if you washed it 500 times, would it keep going up every time?
So with the testing, it's 5 washings. They do it first brand new out of a box. The next test is after 5 washings. So I'm assuming at some point, just like your normal t-shirts, outerwear, eventually it does stop to shrink and it's as tight as it can be. I'm assuming NFPA was 5, I'm guessing, and that's where they came up with that number after 5 washings.
Okay.
So it's always original numbers with 0 washings, then it goes to 5 washings. And at the proper temperature, I think it's 120 degrees, cool water, and then like a slow dry process. And I think that's I think it's 100 degrees for drying, or 110. Don't quote me on those numbers. I'm not a big, with washings. But that's how that goes. So with that being said, the striping is also a big, I can't say a debate or a controversy, but a lot of the manufacturers come up with different striping styles. As you can see, this one is called the segmented trim. And the reason why this came out is if you have regular triple trim, like this needs to be sewn on with neoprene behind it. There's no breathability with this. So a lot of steam burns can come from these areas. Your cuffs, your biceps, your chest, and the bottom of a jacket. So they came out with that segmented trim. Both are made by 3M, but the nice part of that is it does breathe. The breathability is huge. Lion may have started this whole segmented trim thing. Because I would say probably Lion about 10 to 12 years ago came out with the triple trim, with this trim, and then they take it and put holes through it. So they run their own special machine, and they put little perforated holes in it. That gives breathability. It gives a little more breathability than just a regular triple trim. So then I would say, I think it was about 10 years. So probably about 7 years after that, 3M came out with this segmented trim. It gets heat pressed on with high heat. And we haven't had any issues with it. Some people do, some people don't. The issue is a lot of people are tradition in the fire service. This is not the traditional stuff. But departments are changing it because it does work. It absolutely keeps firefighters safe. It does allow their gear to breathe in and out. It also, the dexterity for the material is so much better. You can fold that like nothing. Where if you go with the 3M material, the regular tradition, it's harder. You can't bunch it up as good. All it does is just fold together basically. When you
The other thing with the segment trim is it's not one piece. So one piece can peel off. I mean, it's not one complete piece. So even if one piece gets caught and peels off, it's not going to take the entire trim with it. And because it's not sewn on, nothing can get behind it like blood or bio, diesel, anything like that. So
correct. So cleaning's better. Repairs are easier. Like I said, if one piece rips off, it's just one piece of trim. It's one line that peels off. It's not going to really change anything. We've all seen 3M triple trim get torn off and literally just rip right off. And guys' stuff is flapping, it's holding, or they just cut it. This, you're only going to get a piece or two. And God forbid that it does peel off in high heat conditions. You can literally just take a piece of paper and an iron and iron it right back on. Or send it to your ISP repair facility, and they'll just heat transfer another piece on. It's that simple. So your repair costs do come down, and the longevity is there. Dan actually had a set of gear that was in a flashover container, pretty much burnt the sleeve off, and that trim stayed on. Right, Dan?
Yeah. I mean, the gear gets discolored, but it looks good. I mean, it's still 100% functional. So to get into the next kind of realm, what I wanted to discuss was specifically how, people, you'll ask someone what gear they have, and they'll say, I have Morning Pride, or I have Globe, or I have Innotex, but they don't know any more than that. And so what I don't know how to phrase the question, but what I wanted to kind of discuss was how, you can get the same gear basically from multiple manufacturers. So I could get a spec from Ricochet that is 100% identical to one from Morning Pride, or vice versa. And I bet a lot of people don't even know that. So let's just get into how there's a lot of different combinations out there, and you're not just buying Ricochet gear, but you could get 500 different combinations from Ricochet, and how all that kind of works together and whatnot.
So that's another, I can't say myth, but that's another thing in the fire service. Like Dan said, people are like, I have Morning Pride gear. Everything about Morning Pride's great, the materials, everything like that. There are only a few manufacturers that make materials. One is Norfab. They make an outer shell and the thermal liner. Then you have Tenkati, the same thing. And then you got Steadair. Those three manufacturers supply all the materials for all the fire service. Lion, Morning Pride, Globe, Fire Decks, Viking. They're all the same. So we pretty much get all materials from the same people. And I'm sorry, there's another one, Milliken. Milliken also started to make products for the turnout gear. So everybody can get the same materials. It's basically how it's all put together, how your gear is sewn together, how it's the mobility behind it, the comfort and the features. We can match everyone's spec, like a Morning Pride spec, Ricochet can match it, Lion can match it, Globe can match it. We can all match specs pretty much. But again, it's how we put it together.
There may be I think there's a couple proprietary materials here and there, but so I just want to, but by and large, everyone can get all the materials, right?
Yeah,
I
for the
think-
most part. Like, for example, Globe has Black Advance. Black Advance was available to everybody. Then Globe pretty much bought it all. So now they have proprietary rights to it. But again, I've seen Morning Pride just recently supply departments with Black Advance. So they get their hands on it. But each company, each manufacturer has their material.
Yeah.
What they like to push or what they like the best, has the best ratings or what they get the most of or what they sell the most of.
Yeah.
You know, like Ricochet, we use Norfab. Norfab is our provider. And because they're right down the road from the factory. So that's the relationship we have. You know, it's nice to keep local business.
And then talk about color too. That's a big thing. I want black, I want tan. So
Yep.
go through that a little bit.
So that's another big thing in the fire service, color. You got black gear, tan gear. Then you got, let's see here, we can go with, you got a lighter tan. We got black, of course. And then we got like a khaki color, which people like because it's like a Carhartt color. And then we got this brown color. I have no idea why anybody would kind of want to buy it. Like a light yellowish tan. More khaki. Even we got yellow, pure yellow. So there's plenty of different colors within the fire service. And a lot of departments do it for just, they want to be different or they want to stand out. For the most part, all the colors have the same ratings unless you go into certain materials. So like Gemini Natural, which is, I don't know if I have it here. General Natural is like a tan color. That has a higher rating than their dyed material. Black gear is dyed. All the fabric is dyed with some type of pigment or some type of manufacturing process. So that's how to get black gear. Most of the gear, if it's a natural material, is tan. And there's no dyes in it. There's no chemicals in it. It's just a natural material, how it's woven together.
So when you see black gear and it's parts of it aren't black anymore, is that just the dye wearing out? How would you, if you come out of a burn and you're not sure, aside from sending it out to be inspected, what can you do in-house to see is this black gear that's dyed actually damaged or not?
So that's a great question, Dan. Thanks for bringing that up. So in order for you to check gear, if you think you're in high heat conditions, you saw it discolored, you don't like the way it looks. One good test to do in-house is literally grab it and pull as hard as you can. All gear has a trap rating, which is like a pull resistance. There is no NFPA standard on it because it's subjective when it's brand new. But as gear wears and gets older, you don't think it's doing its job, just grab it and pull as hard as you can. If it rips, the gear is bad. Yes, the chief may be mad at you, but it's not going to rip just by pulling on it unless it's bad, unless the material is broken down from heat. And heat will basically like dry the material out and just make it brittle. It's basically what happens. So you can just pull.
And then the other thing you could do, I believe, is look at the moisture barrier and see if anything.
Yep. So on a moisture barrier, it's going to be like a whitish color, yellowish. If there is damage to it, you will see a brown stain or some type of marking on it, and that will follow from wherever your jacket has burned. So if your jacket burned on the sleeve here, just pull the moisture barrier out and then look at it to see if it's discolored. If it's discolored, that means it took some pretty high heat and it may be bad. You could send it out to your local rep or ISP dealer and they will test it and see if it's bad or not. There's a standard, however, they test it with like UV light or some type of process.
Just going back to the different layers. So you have the interior thermal barrier and then you have the outer layer. If they're both for heat, how do they differ in what they do for you? Is there like, or is it just like the combination of all three, how they work together?
It's the combination of all three work together. How can I put this? So like Wildland gear. Wildland gear is a firefighting garment, but it's just Nomex. It's just an outer Nomex shell There's no thermal liner, there's no moisture barrier. So how do I put that best? I guess, going interior,
Like flash, it's like a flash fire, but not,
no high heat to it.
okay.
There's no real heat. There's no direct flame impingement. No mix will protect you from flame impingement, but not the high heat.
Okay.
And that's the difference. The fabrics are put together to sustain the 1200, 1300 degree temperatures that you can see in a fire.
Now, so what's coming down the pipeline? I mean, in the last few years, we've seen Globe, I think, with the athletics outer shell, and Fire Decks in the last year or two with their tech gen. And I know you were saying maybe some other, like what are those? What did they come out with those for? And what are some other products that are coming down the pipeline?
So everybody in the fire service wants lightness. The lighter, the better. I agree with it. You don't, what was it back then? We had 2.2 stop packs weighing a ton with heavy gear. You add water to that, the gear gets even heavier. And as you're walking around, your shoulders start shrugging and just the weight kills. So everybody wants lightness. So everyone's starting to come out with a lightweight material, and it goes by ounces. An average outer shell is anywhere between 6.5, 6.7 to like 7.7, 7.5. So it goes by ounces, and it's made by ounces per square inch, or square yard, sorry. Ounces are per square yard. So they're coming out with these lighter materials to save on weight of the gear. The downside to that is what we've noticed is the TPP and THLs are dropping. So you're getting lighter gear, but you're getting also less protection. It's hard to make a lighter material and still give it a high level of protection when you're looking for, high heat and flame impingement. You don't want to be put in that situation, but God forbid if you are, you definitely want that protection.
Okay. Someone asked that they were told, one manufacturer suggested, if your gear is susceptible or exposed to heat, that push hard into the worn area with your thumb, and if your thumb starts to rip through or goes right through, that garment needs to be repaired or replaced. Is that it kind of sounds like a different version of what you mentioned. Have you heard of that specific test?
It's pretty much the same thing. You're just taking that area and you're trying to rip it and pull through it. If you yank it hard and put your finger through it, it's going to do the same thing as just grabbing it and pulling it, because you're pulling the weaves apart. So if it's brittle, it'll tear no matter how you look at it.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, whichever way you can tear it easily, if you can tear it easily, you probably have an issue. So
100%, no matter how you grab it, how you pull it, if it tears, it is no good. A new set of gear is not going to rip. It's not going to, it's solid. You do that to worn stuff, this will tear to shreds. If you put heat to it right now, I would if my boss wouldn't kill me. This would tear right apart.
Yeah. So let's talk about the elephant in the room, cancer from the gear. And obviously, we know that cancer is an issue in the fire service. There's a lot of debate about where it all comes from. I'm not going to go on my soapbox tangent of what I think, but certainly in the last week or so, there's been a little more publicity on the PFOA. So what is a PFOA? What's the story with all that?
So I'm still learning a little bit about the PFOA too. A lot of the manufacturers, as far as the outer shell materials, have kept it quiet, of course. But from what I found out, PFOA has been in our turnout gear for an eternity, pretty much. It's been around forever. It's what keeps the gear durable, keeps the water repellency, and every manufacturer uses it. It's just a matter of how much. And it is only used, I know as far as Ricochets and the materials are used, only used on the outer shell. So it's like 0.05, or I forgot what Norfab told me. It's like they used to be like 0.07. They've now brought it down to 0.05 with the new compositions of materials. But it goes into the making of the garment. The thing with that is it's your outer shell. So yes, they're saying it may off gas, it may do this, but also as you wash it, the numbers go less and less with it. So yeah, so brand new, it's got a little bit higher, I guess, off gassing, and like I said, as you wash it, it does come off because it is just a layer through it. Again, I'm still trying to get a lot out of it, but it's hard. They're still doing a lot of research on it. Like Dan says, within the last 2 weeks, I think it was the IFF. Dan, is that who came out with it?
Well, there's been a woman, Diane Cotter, whose husband died of cancer up in Worcester, and I know she's been lobbying for probably years about studying this.
Yep.
So again, I didn't expect you to have answer per se, but certainly it's something that's coming on the horizon. It doesn't make sense to me that the cancer rates for firefighters are fairly consistent across the board. You would think that if it's from fires, then guys in busier departments would have a higher rate of cancer than guys in slower departments, and yet it doesn't seem to be that that's the case. Now, also firemen are not exactly the healthiest creatures, so many I know smoke, drink.
Yep.
So I don't know what the answer is. I'm not going to pretend to know, but it's certainly something to keep in mind. Now, on the cancer talk, there are definitely, some manufacturers doing various things like sealing up parts of the gear and things like that. Do you have either facts or opinions on those? And what about deconning on scene, hosing people off? Is that something as a manufacturer that is recommended or not recommended?
Okay, so we'll go back probably about 2-3 years ago. I'm also a union rep at my job. We're about 43 members. We're a state local FMBA for New Jersey. So I take this to heart. Don't want to see one of my guys get cancer. I don't want to see anyone pass away from it either. So I took a stance with that, as well as the protection of the garment. I went out to Arizona for that cancer symposium. I think it was 3 years ago or 4 years ago. That was probably the craziest, wildest symposium I ever went to. Definitely got to you. There was people who had cancer. There was people whose family or somebody who just died, or they've had someone who knew they were terminal from cancer from the fire service, per se, speaking. So with that being said, we've had in that symposium, you had doctors talking about cancer. You had firemen talking about cancer. You had scientists talk about it. And then you had the debates. Cancer hoods, not cancer hoods. Clean gear, not clean gear. As a manufacturing side of turnout gear, we don't take a stance with it either way. But we do know the fire service prior to, I would say, maybe the last 6, 7, maybe 8 years was dirty gear is cool. And that's the way to go. If you have dirty gear, it means you do your job. You're the cool guy. You're salty, is what they say. And now the new slogan is clean gear is the dirty gear. Clean gear is the cool way to go. So at that symposium, what we gathered is showering and washing yourself an hour after a fire. That's the longest. So basically, come back. You should immediately shower before you do anything else. Rig back and service on scene. Come back to the station, shower, and then tidy up or clean tools or do everything else that has to after that. With the symposium, the doctor said the longer you have carcinogens on your skin, the more it absorbs into your skin, the longer you go. At a fire, your core temperature, they went through like core temperature. So at resting, it's this. After a fire, it's this. Your pores open up with heat. So as it's there, it'll embed itself. So that's why they said big washing, showering after, full showering after a fire, washing your gear, keeping your hoods clean. That was their main topics. I feel pretty strong with that. You should definitely come back, at the least shower yourself, wash your hands, don't touch your mouth, keep clean. Your gear should be clean. It shouldn't be dirty. Just having dirty gear doesn't mean you're the cool fireman or you're the salty fireman. That's basically making you a smart fireman, in my opinion. Nobody wants to go through that.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. Now, speaking about washing gear, I know the way we do it, and I don't know that there's a difference between throwing your gear in the station washer, even if it's a gear extractor. There's a difference between that and doing an annual cleaning and inspection, correct? So do you need to be certified to do an annual cleaning inspection or no?
Yes, you're supposed to send your gear out once a year per an NFPA for your inspection.
Okay.
That means they take your thermal liners, your moisture barriers, and your outer garment, and they test it to make sure it's still meeting standards. As far as cleaning in your extractor or a ISP's cleaning extractor is the same thing. It's just a matter of what materials or what detergent you're using.
But if you send it out to an ISP, to inspect it, almost all of them require that either you wash it or they wash it.
Yep.
Like they're not gonna inspect dirty gear.
No, absolutely not. Gear has to be clean before it's even touched. Even if we bring it back to us for repairs, it has to be cleaned and washed.
Yeah, I know we went through that.
We did actually. That was funny.
So yeah, but I think that's important to know that you can't just say, oh, the gear got, I mean, if you're gonna stick with NFPA, you can't just say, oh, the gear quartermaster is gonna look at everyone's gear once a year. If you're doing it correct, it technically needs to go out to an independent service provider, ISP, in order to get inspected, correct?
Yes, but there are large departments that do have their own ISP. They do send somebody out to get it. They do get the equipment and do it. You know,
Okay.
some departments do, some departments don't want the hassle. Some departments still don't even wash gear.
Yeah. No,
You know, it's definitely wild. Next door to me, everyone sees Live Rescue, Patterson. They only wash gear when you request it to be washed.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, you know. And then you got the departments after every fire, within 24 hours, you're getting clean gear.
Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, Boston went to that. After every shift or after every fire, within that shift, your gear gets sent out and washed. By the time you come back on duty, your gear is clean.
Yeah.
But Boston has a high rate of cancer.
Yeah.
I forgot what the number was at the time was. In a month, I think they had 30 new cases. So it's almost like one a day. And that was with Flynn when he was
when you're washing your gear, how important is it to separate the layers, or can you just throw it in and wash it all together?
That's a great question. You should definitely separate them. The outer shell is what gets the most. The dirtiest has the most carcinogens in it, has the most particles, soot, dirt, sheetrock. So that should get washed separately, so it doesn't impede on your inner liners, the ones that are actually touching your skin. For sure. You know, and another thing you could do is, some people say yes, some people say no. The liner, you should turn inside out when you wash it, because what's touching your skin is the moisture barrier. I mean, it's a thermal liner. So this thermal liner is touching your skin. When you wash it, it's going to get closed together. So that's not really getting much. So if you turn it inside out, this is going to get a good washing. And that's actually what's on your skin. As far as your jacket goes, just pull this apart and then clip it all together and throw it in the wash. You know, put your Velcro together. If you have Velcro closure, just put that together just to try to keep the Velcro in good shape. You know, some manufacturers will tell you the Velcro does not peel, it doesn't get cruddy, and it stays good forever. It's bullshit. It's Velcro. We all know Velcro and what happens to it if you don't take care of it yourself as the user. It will get beat up.
I kind of skipped over this before real quickly. Just talk about the DRD. What, you know, not that it's got features to it, but is that a standard? Is it required, or is it just one of those things that departments see and decide to put in?
So the DRD is an NFPA required piece. I would say probably probably about 15 years ago, they started to require a DRD. It's for firefighter removal in case of a downed fireman. I personally think it's a great idea. You know, more and more people are carrying webbing and stuff like that. But back then, they didn't hear of it. So if you had a down fireman, it was kind of hard to get him out. You put the waist buckle through the groin, clip it together, and try to pull somebody out. It got a little cumbersome. So they went to this DRD system. It just basically goes through your arms, goes around the arms, and just comes out the back. So if you do deploy it, it's just going to wrap around your armpits, and you can drag the person out. Every manufacturer has to have that. Every certified NFPA gear has to have it. There's no standard on what size it is or how it's. Basically, there's no standard on what thickness or what material. Actually, I'm sorry, material has got to be a fire-rated material. But thickness and comfort, they don't care about. It just has to be there. Some use rope, a thin rope. Some use half-inch webbing. Some use thicker webbing. We use, what's that? I think an inch webbing for ours, personally. Just be a little more comfortable. But if I'm down, I really don't care about comfort as far as what's pulling up in my armpits, to be honest with you. But
Yeah, no,
I try to make it comfortable for the training, for sure. You know,
you know my thoughts on this, but it was asked here and I was going to ask it anyway. But I don't know if you have one there, so I might have set you up to fail. I apologize. But internal harness versus external harness, not necessarily from the performance standpoint, even as much, because I know there are different models of everything. So, what, talk to us about how internal harnesses are made, how they are put in, maybe advantages, disadvantages, so on and so forth.
All right, so an internal harness, external harness, very big debate in the fire service, extremely big. You get people that know gear, they have their opinions on it. A harness is a harness. They're both going to work. The internal harness is nice because it's in your gear, comes with your gear. It ensures that your chief or chief officers or purchasing agent is going to buy you new pants and you're going to get a new harness with it. It ensures that. Where sometimes the chief will say, "Oh, you have your old harness. Let me get you a new pair of pants." Your harness is a 10-year lifespan, just like your gear is. But sometimes it's kind of hard to convince a chief when you can take it out. With this, you can't take it out. As far as likes, I'm an external type of guy, just like Dan's an external harness type of guy. You could do a lot more with an external harness. Harnesses are there to be used and not hidden, in my opinion. With that being said, an internal or an external harness, I think, is the longevity of it's going to be a little bit better. These internal harnesses, they're in the material, so they're in between your outer shell and your thermal moisture barrier. So there is a little bit of a wear part and wear area. So I don't know how they will hold up longevity-wise. With that being said, Ricochet has taken the webbing and the harness loops and everything and has wrapped them to try to lighten up on the wear and tear that could occur between the liners. A lot of manufacturers do not do that. So we're hoping that's going to help longevity in a busy department that's running, 4, 5, 6,000 calls a year just to keep the gear in better shape. An internal, external harness, they do the same job. They're going to cover both legs and they're going to buckle at the waist. And then the rest of that is going to be preference. If you like an external or like an internal, there's always heated debates on this. Dan was actually was the one guy with the owner of Ricochet that designed the internal harness to try to make it better. Because originally internal harnesses were absolutely terrible. There wasn't much to them. Everything was hidden on them, and the only thing you basically got with an internal harness was just the front closure, and you had a pompier hook, which I have.
Who knows what you might come up with on that couch. One of the big things we tried to do with the Ricochet internal harness was keep the leg loops, make them adjustable, but also keep them from extending that A-frame as you deployed it. So with bailout systems, one of the things with bailout systems is they have, a set amount distance in front of you. And so with some of the harnesses out there, as you loaded the bailout system, the leg loops would cinch around your legs and then making the bailout system too far out in front of you to be able to grab. So those are actually, that A-frame, which is what right in front of him, is static. It's attached to the waist belt. So that does not get longer or shorter as you load it. So that's what I believe is a big advantage of the Ricochet internal harness. And it's made by RIT. So Ricochet doesn't manufacture it; they just put it into the gear. So
very good point. That was what I was going to bring up next. A lot of internal harnesses, like Dan said, are not adjustable around the legs. They're pretty much one size, and there's a range from say size 38 waist to 52 waist. So your harness for a 38 waist guy is going to be the same as a 52 waist. When you load the system, all that extra is going to come out and pull up further. So when you load the system, it may be here originally until you load it, then it's up to here. So it's going to be harder to grab or even further. So like Dan said, when they went to R&D with this, they wanted to make sure that Ricochet's harness, internal, all the leg loops are adjustable. So you can keep it tight up against your body and it doesn't pull out when you load the system. So it stays static right there. However far, that's as far as it's going to go. So that's a good point with that.
One of the funny things, I don't know if you brought it up before, and I know you said with the DRD how it's Kevlar and whatnot. The harness, the internal harness, has to be Kevlar because it's part of the gear. It's decided to be part of the gear in the NFPA standard, so it needs to be Kevlar and heat rated and all that stuff. And yet you can wear an external harness. The GemTour external harness is nylon. It's not heat rated at all. And that's NFPA compliant as well because it's not considered part of the gear, correct?
Yes. but I believe that it's since changed a couple years ago.
Oh.
I believe the new Gemtor is Kevlar,
Okay.
but that only changed a couple years ago, from what I understand. That was when the Gemtor jumped up in price.
Okay.
Which I don't know exactly what year that is, but again, that it was only a couple years ago. It wasn't a long time ago, so which was crazy. Internals had to be Kevlar, externals did not.
Yeah.
Externals getting more of an appears.
Yeah, exactly. So before we go to non-structural gear, I just want to give you a chance. One more question, and then I want you to go through. I want you to go through all of the different features that make, basically give the Ricochet sales pitch, if you will. But if guys are at home and they're like, wow, I do wear Morning Pride gear, but I have no idea what it is. How can they look at their gear and see what it's made out, what the exact spec is on it?
Another great question, Dan. If you open up your jacket, there's going to be a label inside your jacket. It's actually going to be a couple labels. One label is the danger label, basically, which the stupid idiot label. And then the other one's going to be either on the left or right side of your garment, and it's going to have what your materials are, your size of your jacket, and a serial number, and possibly a name. I know that's a little bit hard to see, but on there it will say outer shell, which this is Pioneer, thermal liner, defender, and moisture barrier. So it'll tell you exactly what you're wearing. Right there is exactly what it tells you. So every gear manufacturer has to have those labels, and it has to have a manufacturer date. So you know how old your gear is, when it was manufactured, and sometimes where, and what standard it's made to.
Yeah.
This is 71, 2018, which is all of them. The newest one is 18.
Cool. All right, so run through the Ricochet line quick, as we went through all the different materials, or a lot of the materials, but go through some of I know there's some unique cut features to Ricochet and whatnot. So
cool. So now I'll give my little sales pitch about Ricochet. Like I said, all manufacturers use the same materials for the most part. It's how it's put together, how it's sewn together, and how you can move, and how it doesn't rise up and come down on you. So with that said, Ricochet, our name is Max Mobility. Max Mobility came from all of our air channels and designs. We'll start with the back. Back of the jacket has these little flaps. Here, it expands and contrasts. That allows you for your movement and for you doing your pipe pulls. It doesn't ride up as much. Another nice feature is our sleeve goes from the cuff all the way down to the bottom of the jacket with one piece. Here's the one piece panel. This also gives you a lot more mobility and stops that sew job that's under here, so that you lose that mobility here. With ours, you have all that flex and you don't get as much ride on the jacket. Another feature of ours, our elbows have little cutouts. I don't know the exact terminology for it. You can see it right here. They're automatically contoured a little bit. So when you go to bring your elbows up, you're not going to feel that pull in your elbow right by the ball joint. It's a smooth transition. It's an easy flow. Another thing is all of our seams are double stitched. Everything has double stitched on both sides. Some manufacturers just do single stitches. Some do double. Morning Pride, Globe, Firedex, they have different genres of gear, different models. Each model will give you, single stitch, double stitch. We have one version of gear, one model, and your price point is based on the materials and how it's put together. We don't believe in we don't believe in dumbing down the gear just to get your business. We make what we make, and the price is going to be based off of materials only. We don't like to say, come to your station and show you this, our high-end product. Here you go, and then price out the lower end. You think you're getting the higher end, but in essence, you're getting the lower because they heard you got a cheaper price. We do not do that. We don't like to do that. It's just bad business. More features of ours is, which is nice, the throat tab. A lot of people have those big hunky throats. A lot of people don't wear them. Some people cut them off. That's not the right thing to do, but that's our throat tab. One single piece that goes up. It's a continual layer that's smooth. We don't have the big throat tab. It's not there. This meets NFPA standard. It meets the shower test, and just how it's contoured into you. So you lose a lot of weight up here. You know, that's the nice part. As far as closures go, everyone has the same closures. Zipper in, Velcro out. Hook and D in, Velcro out. Zipper in, hook and D. What else? What else am I missing?
Snap, then hook and D, maybe. We have
Well,
snap and then hook and D. So
Yeah. Then, oh, that's right. Yeah. Then you got the city style, which is going to be the Velcro, snap, and then hook and D. And the hook and D's actually, I personally like the hook and D's because you can clip a lot of things to it. Glove straps, you can clip your mask to it. There's a lot more print things to do with it. Some people don't like it because it's a catch hazard or it's a pull. You know, a lot of times you get the rips there if that catches something. They all work. Some people love the zipper, some people don't. One nice thing about a zipper, it's 100% enclosure. 100% closure. Some people are like, oh, zippers fail. Do your jean zippers fail? Not generally. So the odds of this failing is pretty slim, but if you do, you always have the Velcro. But what's nice is this is 100%.
Yeah. Well, up north, I know they do have problems with them freezing in the winter. So
Okay. Yeah, that I've not heard of. But again, I don't know what type of zipper they use. We use YKK zippers. So we're using a name brand zipper that's used in pretty much everything you wear. There are other zipper manufacturers, but again, zippers are very important in how they hold up.
Yeah.
So, and ours are nylon. A lot of manufacturers still use the brass ones.
So what kind of customization can you guys do on the gear?
So as far as customization, we can do anything you guys pretty much want, from radio pockets to flashlight holders to glove straps to let's see what else. We got mic tabs. We can do name badges on the back, hanging name badges. We can do RMBs, HMBs. Let's see what else we got here. Different types of lettering. So that's that. And then you got the HMB on the bottom, the hanging name badge. Pretty much you can do anything you want. What's nice about us also is if you have a department that each guy has a different spec and wants things differently, we will absolutely do that for you. It does not really matter for us. It's a little extra time, but we want the firemen to be comfortable and get what they like and not be dictated what they have to wear. So that helps out a lot of departments because a lot of manufacturers will not just make one garment or make 5 different garments for the same department.
Now, I don't know if it's in Jersey. I know around here a lot of times they'll change the color of striping for officers versus firefighters. Is that sound practice, or are you setting yourself up for failure if you have to change striping? Is that doable to do? Is it not doable? Is it not cost effective? What's the scoop on that?
Changing striping is pretty expensive because the striping's put on before it's sewn together. If it's triple trim or segmented. As you can see, the seam, it's sewn through the seam. So all this striping is put on before the garment is sewn together. So in order for them to change striping, everything has to come apart. So your garment is pretty much, they're undoing the seams.
Okay.
So cost effective, it depends. I know at my job personally, the volunteers are in orange striping. When they come onto the career side, the chief sends it out to get restriped. It's probably about $400 to $500, where a set of gear is, $1,800 to $3,500. So some chiefs say it doesn't really matter.
Ridgewood's like
no, exactly. But it's just one of those things that they wanted the volunteers to be different than the career guys.
Yeah. Let me see. Oh, so what's I know right now I'm hearing it from everyone, and Ricochet's got their issues too with turnaround time. So talk about just in the industry what's going on with turnaround times for gear, because I'm hearing I know we just did it. Some gear it was like 2.5 months, and that's on the shorter side of what most are doing. So just talk about turnaround time in general for the most part in a good year and in COVID year.
So in a good year, so we get our material like everybody else. Our materials come from another manufacturer, a mill somewhere, and then that mill gets their fibers from somewhere else. So there's so many parts to the system that you don't even realize. Gear starts with a little bit of fabric, twill, Kevlar, and all these filaments, and then the textile industry, they put it all together. So it's got to go from this person and work its way down to the mill. Then the mill sends it to us. So there is a little bit of a lead time or lag now currently because of COVID. Prior to that, materials are pretty much, you can get them anytime. But COVID has definitely slowed up productions and just getting raw material for the most part. You know, and then even on that end of it, us making it, this garment is made by hand from start to finish. Yes, we may have a machine or a computerized machine to cut it, but from there, everything else is done by hand. Legitimately, one person puts on striping, one person sews a sleeve on, another person sews the other sleeve on, and it goes down the chain. So there is a little bit of lead time. God forbid somebody gets COVID in the factory, it could put out, 5, 6, 10, 12 people at a time, and then production slows up. It does take, a couple hours to put a set of gear together, and that's the problem. So turnaround time can go from anywhere between, for Ricochet, 6 weeks to 12, 13, 14 weeks, depending upon when we can get material, how quick we get it, and then when it goes in the production line, if God forbid anyone gets sick currently. When I first started with Ricochet, we were delivering gear in 4 to 6 to no more than 8 weeks. But we have since grown then, and now we're pretty much steady at about 8 weeks delivery, and that 8 weeks can turn into 12 weeks if we can't get material, or we have, a decent amount of sick people that don't show up for work. So it does vary, but I've heard of some manufacturers right now are going 6 months for delivery.
Anything special? I'm sorry, go ahead.
We're definitely not that bad. We're not
Yeah.
6 months, but we've gone 3 months, 3.5 now for delivery. It is what it is. We try to keep abreast on what's going on, but for the most part, sometimes we can't help what's going on, and that's the problem.
Before we get off of fire, do you want to talk about pants? Is there anything special with the pants that you want to point out? Do you have a bailout pocket, one with the bailout pockets?
Yep.
At all? Okay, cool.
So our pants, Dan and I, when we first started with Ricochet, just as regular salesmen, we went down to the factory. Their pants design, when we first saw him and I looked at it, so I'm like, not really into it. They have a little bit of a higher waist. So it's probably, I would say, about 2 inches higher than like Morning Pride or Globe. And after wearing it, we're like, wow, this actually does work. With a little bit of a more higher pants, this pant grabs your waist knuckle, and it locks it in there. So you're not wearing your pants around where you would wear your jeans, which is below your knuckle or right at your knuckle. And that's where you start getting the sag. By having our pants a little bit higher, it makes them you wear them above your knuckle. So if you have a pants that fit properly, in essence, you don't need suspenders because these lock onto your hips. Yes, it's a little bit to get used to. If you're wearing low-rise pants, I would say they're not really. But after wearing them, you'd realize how much more comfortable and how much you take the stress off your shoulders with the suspenders. It definitely helps. On that end, then we went into standard boot cut. We did not charge extra for boot cut. That comes standard. Everybody knows the back of your pants wear. I don't care what manufacturer, where the gear is, that part always wears. So we took that out of the equation by doing automatic boot cut. Less wear and tear, less repairs, happier firemen. As far as closures go, we can do any type of closure you guys want. The hook and D with the Velcro, Velcro with a snap, zipper with hook and D, zipper with just snap. That's all pretty much standard. Another thing Ricochet does, which is a nice feature, is that elastic. That basically is almost like a take-up strap. Like Morning Pride has, Globe has it, that little strap that you can pull. Well, Ricochet decided instead of a take-up strap that, kind of is a little annoying, especially if you put an external harness on, they went with this smooth, flat piece of Velcro. All it is a piece of spandex, and you just pull it together. As you can see, what it does to the pants, it takes up about 1 inch on each side. So you can bring in about 2 inches for your pants. Well, another nice thing about this feature is, if this goes bad, for $10, you pull it out of your pants, we send you a new one, you put a new one in. So if it does lose elasticity or just stops sticking, it's field changeable. You don't have to send it out to do anything. And that's nice about that. As far as Dan brought up about bailout pocket, here's our bailout pocket. It's got a piece of webbing or rope in here. So it's get a good hold of it. It's a big long flap. Whip. And then inside is lined with Kevlar from the rubbing. And depending upon your system, we can modify any pair of pants to meet your system. So whatever system you have, we try to grab it or at least get measurements, and then we build the pocket to fit your system per se. Air shield on the outside. So when you put the hook in there, you don't have that rub, and you don't rub through the outer material. And then we also have a feature too where you can do a removable flap. So this flap can be 100% removable. Rip it off, throw it to the side, and then when you're done, just re-snap it, snap it back on. Another feature for our knees, we have this knee called combat knee. It's hard to show, but as you can see, it's got a little belly to it already. So it's automatically contoured for your knee. Hold it up that way. It's automatically contoured. As you can see there, it's got that little bow to it. So when you're wearing it and go to bend down, your pants do not grab you and you feel that tug around your shoulders with your suspenders. You can flex your knee and you don't get that strong feeling there. With that also said, our arrow shield inside has a little notch on each side. So when you get the flex, there's no buckling, there's no bowing, and there's no that bunchiness you get. Another feature we did with Ricochet is we take our knee padding and put it between the thermal liners, between the thermal liner and moisture barrier. So our knee padding is in this. This saves you on your knee repairs. You rip a pair of knees that have the padding inside. You got to replace the arrow shield, got to replace the outer material, and then most likely the padding because the padding is going to be waterlogged. So here, God forbid you rip a pair of knees, send it back to us or to your ISP, $50. They replace the whole front arrow shield, and you're back in service. So you don't have to go through all that hassle to change this. Another nice feature with doing this is you have a 1/4 inch knee pad plus the extra material, so you're getting a little more than a 1/4 inch just of knee padding. You're getting a little bit more, and the knee stays with you at all times because it's not going to move or buckle. You get a lot less knee roll. So with that being said, this here it stays tight. You bend, you put your knee in there, it's going there. You're not going to roll your knee it like some others that have it just down the middle. So that's a nice feature we've done through just R&D. Guys have come back to us saying, hey, we don't like this, we like that, and we make changes as needed for applications. Dan, I think I covered everything with the pants, right?
I'm sorry?
You covered everything with the pants, I believe, correct?
Yeah, no, I think that's good. If anyone has any questions, you can chime in. It's 8:35, so we got about 20 minutes left. And I just want to touch on, we're really not going to touch on the EMS too much, although I'll let you show it. But there's a lot of, you talk about the tech rescue standard, what it is, why some departments are purchasing tech rescue jackets, how they differ from firefighting jackets. What's the deal with them?
All right, so tech rescue is a newer thing that's come out. A lot of departments are starting to go to it. It's a lighter weight garment. Our tech jacket is 1951 and 99 certified. 51's the rescue certification, 99's the bloodborne pathogen certification. A lot of departments are starting to go to this, volunteer departments per se, for their drivers. Just the guys who are driving. This meets the standard to be on the fire ground. NFPA says if you're on the fire ground, you're supposed to have some type of protection. This meets that protection because the outer shell is flame resistant, which is Nomex. And then our liner inside is also flame resistant, which is this gray material. So this will meet your standard, and it's also cheaper. So say a set of turnout gear from Ricochet is anywhere between, depending upon spec, $1,800 to $2,400, $2,500 on the high end. And that's a super high end. You're getting pretty much like a Cadillac. Tech rescue gear for a jacket pant you around $1,200 to $1,400, depending on how it's spec'd. So a lot of departments are going to this for the drivers and the older members, fire, police. But then there's also a lot of departments that are proactive. They're also buying this for their SOC units, special operations, rescues, confined space teams to save on their turnout gear. It's lighter, it's more comfortable. And instead of, ruining $2,500 set of gear, they give you this. And you wear this on a lot of calls. It's cheaper to replace. And it makes the fireman happy. 90 degrees out to put this on for a car accident than putting on your turnout jacket. So it does help. Except these are made from the same materials pretty much, just the outer shell. Difference is there's no moisture barrier and thermal liner. Well, this is basically a moisture barrier, but there's no thermal liner to this. So you don't have the high heat protection, but you do have the flash protection for extrications, trench rescue, high angle, all that.
Yeah, I mean, gear used to be made out of Nomex, right? So that outer layer that you're holding used to be what the outer layer of gear was made out of, and then you just had the thermal liner as well.
Correct.
So you are getting a good amount of protection from that, from like a quick flash fire or something like that.
So Nomex has been always true and through. Every manufacturer, well, I can't say every manufacturer. Most manufacturers who make Nomex will always make Nomex. Nomex is not going to go away. Nomex has been around forever. It is true and through. It is used in a ton of industries that you don't even realize. Anybody that's doing kilns, firing stuff, refineries, auto body shops, they're using some type of Nomex for their flame protection. They're doing welding. So it's not going to go anywhere. Back to PFOAs, from what I've been told, Nomex does not have it. But again, it's not confirmed yet. But Nomex doesn't have the water repellency. A lot of PFOAs is from the water repellency stuff they use. So as they started coming out with these new materials, high tech, they started adding that to try to keep the water absorption down. Again,
and obviously we want water repellency so that we're not getting wet and then steam burns. That's where, it's not so we can stand outside in the rain. It's more for, prevent like hose streams getting onto our skin and then causing steam burns and stuff. And that's where, not to backtrack, but that's where the moisture barrier comes in to draw that moisture from our perspiration away. Correct. So that, again, we limit the amount of steam burns that we're getting.
Absolutely, 100%. But again, like I said, I'm only been told that. I haven't seen the scientific facts behind it. Again, just people are starting to backpedal and trying to get the information. So I have it to give to you guys for sure.
And I know some departments, both because of the PFOA, issue and because of just the wear and tear on structural gear for, car accidents, CO alarms, kind of the menial runs that we go on to, even EMS runs where guys wear their turnout jackets. Even departments that don't do technical rescue per se are starting to consider buying tech rescue jackets as kind of like that, where when you don't need a turnout jacket, a bunker jacket, but still need some level of protection. Are you seeing that from departments or at all?
100%. So NFPA standard for turnout gear is 10 years. In a busy department, a busy fireman, really proactive fireman will maybe get 3 to 5 years on a set of turnout gear. So every 3 to 5 years, if they're proactive and they're busy and they take care of their stuff, you're looking at 3 to 5 years. So a lot of departments are saying, okay, turnout jackets are going to be used for firefighting only, for that side of it. And then they're issuing this for the CO alarms, the car accidents, the stuff where you don't need the thermal protection for. And it's going to save them in the long run cost-wise. As a guy who's proactive, 3 to 5 years for, $2,000, $2,500 set of gear is a lot. When this is, used for the average calls.
Does that have a 10-year NFPA on it or no?
No, it does not, because it doesn't have a thermal liner.
Okay. So it's okay. Very good. And, and so the inner liner on that, that's what's giving you your blood and bloodborne pathogen protection?
Yeah. So this in the tech rescue is for blood, and it's got for fire as well. So both. I don't know the exact rating, but it has for both. But this is also for fuels too. That's where it meets this tech side. So diesels, there's a whole list of them. I don't know off the top of my head, but that's where it gives you that tech rescue certification.
Okay.
Protect you from chemicals, diesel, gasoline. It won't come through to you at all. Basically, it's an expensive rain jacket too, because it's not going to get wet.
And then what are there different features to the tech rescue jackets, or is it pretty much just maybe?
So you can take your tech jacket and make it identical to your turnout jacket. Every feature your turnout jacket has, we can put on a tech rescue jacket. Radio pocket, flashlight holder, pencil pocket here to put your pens or pen, shears, notepad. Basically, it's unlimited. You can literally do anything you want. Name badges on the back. Removable. We could do a hanging name badge on the bottom, just like your turnout gear. There's not much we cannot put on a tech rescue jacket, which is good. So it's fully customizable to your needs.
Okay, cool. And then do they have pants too?
Yes, we do have pants and same pretty much concept. The pants, zipper fly. It's got suspender buttons, take up straps on the side to make them tighter, Parashield knees, and then it's got the 14-inch standard leg zippers. And we can change that to 18 if you want. But the leg zipper opens up, and then, you know, as you hop in, you could just zip it down to make it tighter. We could also put Parashield on the cuffs. We can do different stripings. This is 2-inch. We can go to 3-inch. We can do segmented. We can do Oralite, which is the diamond plate trim. But they're pretty much a standard pant. And they come in sizes just like jeans do. You know, they're going to be a bigger size than what you wear, but that's how they're sized. Just almost similar to turnouts.
Yeah, cool. So that's tech rescue, which is kind of like your highest level of non-structural gear. I know you guys have a couple, and there may be some people in here that do EMS or have an EMS side. So where does EMS gear come from? What are some of the, you know, what do those have? Because I know the one level below this has a Nomex outer shell. If you put it next to the tech rescue jacket, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So, you guys at home, if you felt these, they feel identical, they look identical. So what's the actual difference, and what are you losing if you do an EMS jacket?
Perfect. So this in my right hand is the tech rescue jacket. It's tan, but it also comes in navy. So tech rescue can come in tan, black, navy, royal blue, yellow. I think that's it. There might be a red too that we may be able to get, but that's a little bit harder. This in this hand is the EMS jacket. The only difference is they look identical. The only difference is the liner inside. If it's got a navy blue liner, it's an EMS jacket. This is just $19.99 certified only. So it's only for bloodborne pathogen. But the outer shell is identical. Nomex or Sentinel DH, which is a flame flashpoint protection material. So there's not much difference except this liner inside. This is like a polyester material, will and can melt. So that one can't, this one can. So this is only 99 certified, or the other one's 1951 and 99 certified.
The upside of that is you can zip what into it for like in the winter.
So both of these, the Tech Rescue and the EMS, you can put a warmth liner in it, which is a pretty thick Polar Tech liner. So you can make this basically a winter jacket. Very, very warm. And you can do that on either.
Okay. And then you have one level of EMS below that?
Yep. And then there's about a $200 difference between the Tech Rescue and the EMS garment. So EMS runs for a full set anywhere between $800 to about $1,100, depending upon material. And the Tech Rescue's 12 to like 14, depending upon your spec. Then we have one line lower than that, which is our 200 series front line. And that's just a bloodborne pathogen material. Basically, it's a glorified rain jacket, but it withstands blood. So the blood would not go through this. More of like a nylon feel jacket. Very, very comfortable. And it gives you that protection. What makes this different than a rain jacket is, one, it withstands blood, and two, all of our seams are taped and sealed, so no blood can get through. And these run anywhere between, for a full set, is about $650 to $900-ish for a full set for the EMS. And there's a wide range because you can get so much to it. Hood, no hood, sleeve patches, the backs. You can really do them up on the back with lettering, heat applied lettering. embroidered name tags. You can do the Velcro here. We can do name badges on the back as well. It's not on this jacket, but it can go on the back here. But that's the lowest end model. Everything Ricochet sells has a certification. We do not just sell a jacket just to sell something. Everything's at least 99 certified or higher.
Yeah, so that's one of the things I wanted to bring up was that I'll get people that'll send me jackets that are less expensive than the Ricochets and say, here, this is Nomex 2. Why Nomex also? Why can't I buy this? That's Nomex. They're both Nomex. What's the difference? Like I just pulled up something on the Fire Store. It's Wildland certified. So it's a Nomex outer shell, which is identical to what you just held up. And so it's a couple $100 less. And that's just going to be because it doesn't have the EMS liner in it, correct? So obviously
straight up Nomex outer garment. That's it. There's nothing to the inside of it.
Yeah. So when you put in that, and listen, the reality is if you're wearing stuff under it, you're probably not going to get blood all the way up to your skin. But if you want to be to the standard of NFPA and bloodborne, then you need to get something that's built to that standard, basically.
Correct. And in my opinion, it's not just because I'm a salesman, not because I rep Ricochet. For the couple $100 or I consider it pennies more, you're better off buying a garment that has protection. For example, the 511. Remember, everyone had those 511 nice 3-season jackets. They were probably about $400 or $500. For as the full set. Well, there was no level of protection. There was no ANSI for it. There was no reflectivity. There was no bloodborne barrier. There was no nothing to it. So you spend $500 for a jacket, or you can spend $650 for a jacket and have the 99 certification with a warmth liner. So it acts basically as the same. So for $100 more, $150 more, you're getting a certified jacket that you can pretty much go into shit with, where the other one you could not. So you're better off having some type of protection. Awesome. Also, for food for thought is this meets the COVID standard because it's 99 certified. So if you're going for CARES money, this will cover the CARES side of it because it has to have some type of certification. And CARES for COVID response is $19.99.
Got it. Cool.
So that's huge. So we've been getting an influx of orders or inquiries because of the COVID CARES money.
Okay. Very nice.
Because it's washable. So you're wearing it as a garment inside, you can throw it right in the washing machine. And that's another nice thing. Your EMS stuff, as long as it doesn't have blood on it, and your tech rescue can go in your normal laundry washing machine.
Cool.
So that's huge.
Yeah. So that's the big stuff I have. Do you have anything else that you wanted to discuss that we didn't hit on?
No, nothing really. Suspenders maybe for turnout. They're pretty much the same suspenders everyone else has. You either got the button style or you got the snap style. The snap style is your suspender. Is just a strap and then snaps together around the piece of fabric. And then the button ones are traditional ones with the metal rings. We have the same ones as pretty much everybody else does. And I would say they're almost pretty much interchangeable. So if you have your leather suspenders, just make sure when you do order, just say you either have the button style or the snap style, but your leathers will work. I don't want anyone to tell you that or your leathers will only work on their pants. That's not the case.
Okay. Anything with hoods? I mean, I know you guys don't manufacture hoods. Is there anything you wanted? Even if we're not going to go through hoods, just what makes a cancer hood or a carcinogen blocking hood versus a regular hood? If we'll do that for 30 seconds or whatever. What's the difference there?
So you do have the cancer hoods. Gore makes a nice hood. The outer material is going to be either Nomex or Lansing or PBI or a combination of them. And what makes the cancer hood is basically the barrier. There's going to be a barrier just like this is in between the two. Some type of barrier that's going to stop particles from going through. And they make that, I think it's 99% where no micro fibers can go through it. And that's what makes up the cancer hood. When I was at the symposium, there was huge heated debates about if a cancer hood works or it doesn't work. We're not going to get into that, but there was big battles. One was take your hood off after every fire and wash it. And the other was you need to have a cancer hood to not get cancer. Both sides of it. One's the manufacturer side. One was scientists and doctors. The big thing in my opinion with that is if the materials are coming onto your hood when you take it off, they're going to flake off anyway. So you either spend $100 for a hood or you buy 4 $30 hoods and just rotate them weekly. They still need to be washed. So if you buy a $100 hood or a $20 hood, they both do the same job. One has the cancer barrier in it, the other one does not, but you still need to wash it after every fire. Huge, very, very important. Because what do we do every day? We shave. Most guys like myself, I have baby skin, terrible. I get the rashes and that your pores stay open. So that's where you start getting that throat cancer, possibly is what they're calling it. It's just carcinogens coming in because your pores open up. So I'm a big proponent of wash your hood weekly. And even if you don't get a fire, you're still getting sweat, you're still getting soot, you're still getting diesel particulates. Wash it weekly.
Well, and
So
the other funny thing is steam rooms used to be a big thing in firehouses, and that's probably the worst thing you can do.
Yep.
And I've also heard when you're going to shower, wash in a colder shower first, and then, because obviously the hot water is going to open up your pores and allow whatever's in. So start with colder water, wash all the carcinogens and stuff off of you, and then you can crank the heat up if you want. So
Yep, no, absolutely. Like I said, right now they're working on the science part of that. Hopefully, how long it comes, who knows when it's going to come out, but eventually it'll come out with like scientific data about showering and temperatures. But just think about it, your pores open up when it's hot. So you don't want that stuff to go in. And that's the bottom line. I know you brought up before about gross decon. Another heated debate in the fire service. Do you stand outside after a fire and get hosed off before you get in the apparatus? Depends on how dirty you are. We've all known people who have gone in first line, fought a fire, and come out pretty goddamn clean. And then we've seen guys go into a fire and come out trashed. If you're trashed, I don't see a problem hosing all that gook off before you get in an apparatus. But, people get dirty intentionally. Some people don't. You have the clean fireman and dirty fireman doing the same job, but one likes to look dirty because he thinks it's cool, and the other one says, no, I'm going to stay clean and still do my job. But fire apparatus is going to that whole clean cab technology. As they said, just from repeated getting back into the fire trucks.
That's another. That's a whole nother night. Clean cab. You will not see me doing a clean cab.
No, absolutely not. But again, try to stay as clean as possible. Just be smart about it.
So before we wrap up, if a department wants to try Ricochet, what do you guys offer for like wear trials and stuff like that?
So if your department's truly looking for gear and you're doing a competitive wear trial, the only thing we ask is that the competitive wear trial is fair, and that you're truly looking for gear. You're not just trying to get a free set from us. We will do wear trials for free. In the end, if you do not buy it, we will repo the gear basically. We'll take it back. And, that's what we use for our training seminars or, send that overseas.
What I prefer doing, which is something we've done with a few departments, is rather than give you a wear trial for 90 days, 120 days, whatever the case may be, is to just sell you 1 or 2 sets of gear at a superly discounted price. And then it's basically like a demo price. And then you get to keep that gear for 10 years. So if you decide in 6 months, you know what, we haven't put it through its paces yet, well, you own it. So you can give it another 6 months or another, so whatever the case may be. I'm not naive. I realize that Ricochet is not a well-known brand like a Globe or a Morning Pride. And so there is something to prove a little bit more there. The upside is you're using the same materials as everyone else. So it's not like I'm asking, it's not like you're asking someone to try proprietary material or anything like that. So that's the upside of it.
Exactly. We're just asking you to try our fit, finish, and Dan and I's face. The personalities we have, shoot the shit. We don't try to push it up on you. We want you to feel it, try it, wear it, to like it. And like Dan says, if you do, we will give it to you for 90 days, 120 days, or we'll sell it to you at a super, super cheap price that you basically can't refuse, and you own it. We like that personally. I like that a lot too, because hey, people don't know who Ricochet is. It works. The wear trial lasts. Everything worked out great. They wind up buying, say, Morning Pride. A year or two down the road, I still want that one fireman still wearing Ricochet. Who outlasts who sometimes. And then sometimes 2 years down the road, they'll come back and be like, hey, now we want to buy Ricochet. It outlasted our other stuff. As far as Ricochet goes, Yes, we are a smaller company. We are based out of Philadelphia. We have about 80 employees, but we also do have the government contract for the military. We supply the entire United States Air Force with turnout gear. By the time the contract's over with, every fireman in the Air Force will have at least one set of Ricochet. The goal is to have every fireman have two, but again, government funding is going to limit that. But that was the goal, and that's the part of the contract. So yes, we're a smaller company, but we're also big on that end.
Cool.
We do supply the Navy as well, and FDNY we supply the tech rescue gear for. So every SOC unit, chief officer, and I think chief officer, right, Dan?
No, Chiefs don't get it, but everyone in SOC and some other random people.
Okay. So they get it. So we are smaller, but we are big, you know. We're about $10 million a year, and we stand behind our product. You know, you have a problem, myself, a rep, somebody's coming out there. If it's not the outer shell material, it's gore, or somebody's going to come to you, and we're going to make sure you're happy. You're not just a dollar sign to us. We want to make that personal relationship. And my phone's always on if you want to call me. And I come to most meetings.
Yeah, I usually have him come, and his phone really is on most of the time.
You
So.
know, even if you don't want to buy Ricochet and you want to learn more, contact Dan. Dan, you give my number, call me, and I can talk hours with you about gear. And I won't tell you on the product. We'll just talk, shoot the shit, you know, just about materials and different things. I have no problem with that.
Yeah. Cool. Well, if no one else has any questions, I want to thank you for joining us tonight, Jay, and everyone else. In the chat window, guys, I put a quick link to a quick survey. If you could fill that out just to let me know if this was well worthwhile, because we could do this for other products as well. And then I also put a link to the thermal imaging camera class that we're doing next week. Same day, same time, Thursday next week. And then I'm going to throw up, I have a couple, we have our open enrollments next week, or starting up soon, some open enrollments. So these are going to be the fire behavior open enrollments, just to go through this quick. This is with the container. So we've got March 21st in Beacon Falls. I can't draw a line, but March 21st in Beacon Falls. And that's only open to training officers or, you know, someone that they designate. So that's really, you know, Beacon Falls just has like 11, 12 guys going through the class. And then we're opening the rest of it, no charge, free of charge to any training officer that wants to come. Those spots are almost filled up already, actually. Then April 1st and 3rd in Terryville, we'll be doing the open enrollment live fire behavior class. So what we're going to do is April 1st, we're going to do the classroom, and that's going to be either in person, you can come up to Terryville, or you can log in from home. We'll be live streaming it to those that are taking the class. So you'll be able to take the class either way. And then on April 3rd, we'll have either a morning session or an afternoon session of burns. And then May 1st in West Reading, we're going to do the class, the whole class one day. So classroom in the morning and the live burns in the afternoon. So that'll all be in person. That'll be a good opportunity. And then for the rest of our seminars this year, I don't think I'm going to do any past March 1st. We'll probably, you know, do a full lineup starting next fall again. So we have thermal imaging cameras next Thursday online again. And then March 1st, I'm really excited. We're doing a VES seminar. And what we're going to do is, I'm going to sit here and talk a little bit about VES. But we're also going to have a couple of guys that from small suburban departments in the state that have done VES to actually talk about it. So we have a gentleman from South Windsor who VES'd at a fairly advanced fire a few years ago where there was a report of people trapped. That search came up negative, but it was a successful VES operation. And then most recently in Watertown, there was a very successful rescue of a larger individual where they actually VES'd and then performed a cut down of the window and removed that person. And so that was a successful VES and a rescue. So I think those will be, we're again, 15, 20 minutes with each of them, just going through kind of what they did and some of the training that they've got. And that's going to kick off the container and our hot classes for the year. We're going to be offering VES classes. So hopefully that'll interest some of you guys. So please, those are both free. So feel free to log into those. The thermal imaging camera one, again, I put the link up. and the VES one, the link will go out about a week before that class starts. So without, I got nothing else. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I will follow up tomorrow with an email to everybody for the contact information for both myself and the three guys that joined us tonight, Jason, Andrew, and I think Frank probably went. Yeah, I mean, he's in Tampa. I wouldn't sit online either all night. So hopefully he's enjoying 70-degree weather. But so if nothing else, I appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. And, this was, I learned a lot. This was a great evening. So thank you very much. And everyone stay safe out there, and we'll see you soon. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, Andrew.